Hey, let me ask you a question. Is your neck bothering you? Today marks the 100-day anniversary of the current administration, and whoa, what a ride. The most incredible 100 days ever, and it's been a whiplash ride from hell in the market. Now, oh, I can't even get this thing off. There we go. Now, let's take a moment to talk about this because I get it. I just think that you should really, really break this down a little bit and talk about so you can understand the true implications of what's going on. Okay, so bear with me for just a second here. There's a lot of talk about tariffs, taxes, Social Security, China this, China that, must this, must that. And of course, it's all Trump's fault. This isn't new, folks. This is the same old, same old. If you don't have a pencil and paper, you should get one now and you should write this down because I'm going to give you a map, kind of a guide as to when I feel things might start getting a little better. Because I feel three distinctive things need to happen. The first one is we need a more dovish Fed. However, I want you to think about this. He's got to feel confident that inflation is not going to run away. And what's stopping him from lowering the rates? These tariffs they've not made themselves to the market yet. So he's in a tough place right now. The second thing that needs to happen is the 10-year treasury needs to come down. I want you to really listen to me as to what I'm saying right now. You see, the 10-year treasury is the end of all. Everything is based on the 10-year treasury. See, everybody thinks it's the 2-year treasury is what drives the Fed up and down. Does it control the economy? No, it doesn't. Because the only thing the Fed can control is the 2-year treasury. The 10-year treasury has a mind of its own, and it's based on both economic and market conditions. And what the bond market is telling us, not just telling us, it's kind of screaming. It's like hitting us in the head and saying, there's trouble underfoot. And the third thing that needs to happen is the US and China need to come together with an absolute agreement. It's the big one, folks. Because what it's going to take is the two most massive egos in the entire world coming to an accord. I hope you wrote those three things down. If those three things happen, then I truly believe we've turned the corner. But they almost have to happen simultaneously. I mean, how many of you think that this is all going to happen in the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 180 days? We're in trouble. So what about all this craziness going on? What about all this volatility? All this means to you is this craziness is in your portfolio. This is creating an incredible volatility. And what this volatility is doing, if you're near distribution or you're already distributing from your portfolio, is it puts you in a position where you have to make bad decisions. Why? Because it seriously affects your income. So tonight, yes, we're going to talk about Roth conversions and living a tax-free retirement, but I want to give you a true compass as to how you can navigate through this unscathed, because see, you're being asked by the administration to endure a little discomfort, to endure a little pain. But at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself why. You've worked your entire life, 25, 40 years to get where you are. Haven't you had enough pain and discomfort? Let somebody else have it. Because after tonight, I'm going to show you how you can take absolute control of your financial well-being. And the best part is, this is the greatest opportunity ever. Before the sale on taxes expires in December. So let's get started here. This is the S&P since the beginning of the year. And as you can see, it's been quite a roller coaster ride. This is the 1 month chart. This is the last 30 days, what's happened inside of that. And I'm sure it's not been pleasant for any of you. This is just that plunge that took place in there, and it's been bouncing back and forth and bouncing back and forth. And folks, this is nowhere near over. This is just today. Now, if that's all you knew, that'd be one thing. But let's talk about the national debt. We have a $36 trillion debt. $36 trillion. We have an unfunded deficit of $227 trillion. We're about $263 trillion upside down. We spent $2 trillion more than we actually brought in the last 365 days. Now, one of the coolest things about this USDebtClock.org now is that Doge clock. $370 billion in fraud and things that they found that they could cut out of the budget. That's pretty cool. They're on their way to $1 trillion, maybe two. That would be really cool because then we get rid of that deficit that they're overspending. But if that was all you knew, that'd be one thing. What do you think the highest income taxes has ever been in the United States? How about you, Ken, Dan, Shinny, Caesar, Kathleen? What do you think it's been? Top marginal tax bracket ever since the inception of the temporary income tax and the establishment of the IRS in 1913. Answer, 94%. 94%. The average has been 57% over that period of time. Currently, we're sitting at 37%. We're one of the lowest tax brackets we've been throughout history. With the national debt of $36 trillion. Unfunded deficit of $227 trillion. So I don't know. What do you think? You think taxes are going to be lower, higher, or the same in the future? And everybody I've ever talked to believes that they will definitely not be lower, that they'll be the same or higher. Now, they're talking about lowering taxes, but chances are that's not going to happen. And most people are quite surprised to find out that even though they think they're going to get to a lower tax bracket, when they get through and they get in their Roth conversion analysis, and they find out that not only are they going to not be in the lower tax bracket, frequently they're going to be in a higher tax bracket, and these are things we're going to talk about tonight. Now, my name is James Johnson. I've been a wealth advisor for well over 20 years. I'm an ex-Marine. There is no such thing. I'm top of the table for MDRT, $1 Million Roundtable. $1 Million Roundtable is the oldest, largest, and most prestigious financial planning institution in the world. And if you qualify for it, you're in the top 5% of all planners in the world. If you're top of the table, you're in the top 1%. I was a master lead advisor for Ed Slott for more than 9 years. That means I know a lot about qualified money. I'm a father of two and past Rotarian president. Now, we're going to talk about Roth IRAs and living a tax-free retirement. What are we going to learn? Well, I'm going to educate you on tax planning strategies that have the opportunity to be maximized between now and 2025 and beyond. Now, why is 2025 such a significant number? Well, as it stands right now, the Trump tax laws from when he was in office before are set to sunset on 12/31 of 2025. Now, nobody knows exactly what's going to happen, and there's a lot of talk about what they're going to do, possibly raise the top tax brackets, likely not lower the bottom tax brackets, and with a little bit of luck, lock these tax brackets in for another 4 years, possibly even as high as 10. Making them permanent, that's a joke. There's nothing is permanent inside of the government. Strategies that you could put in place to make sure your money lasts longer. You see, folks, in order to retire, you need one thing. And that one thing is a paycheck. And that paycheck is going to come from your known sources over here, such as your Social Security, pension if you're lucky enough to have one. We could argue that rental properties are known income, but if you own rental properties, you know that's simply not true. You could factor in some, but it's still not going to factor in as always being there. Then you're going to have a need, and in between there, you're going to have a gap. And that gap is going to have to be filled by those assets that you might manage to put away. Your IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, 457, TSPs, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, gold, silver, cryptocurrencies, annuities, certificates of disappointment, you name it. Those assets are going to have to fill that. Now, what that means is you're going to have to get those assets to create an income for you. But what's important is that that income not only comes, but it keeps up with inflation and passes on in the most tax favorable way possible. Roth IRA tool, how to use it and why it's such a critical component in your retirement plan. How to create a tax-free income, maximize the lifespan of your money, and avoid that potential tax bomb at age 73. If you're wondering what that is, stick around. And common mistakes that people make. There are a lot of them. Now, this is a live event, so please just try to stay focused for the next 35 to 40 minutes and silence your cell phone, but keep it because you might want to take some pictures along the way. X out of any other tabs you have so you don't get that squirrel and go running off at the very most important moment, all right? Please use the chat box over here. I'm monitoring the chat box. I can see Diane, Roberto, Nathalia, Ram, Joe, Patrick, Peter. I see all of you out there. Leo. Leo was my uncle's name. And I see you all out there. But use the chat box because I'll do my very best to answer those questions as we go. And I promise you, if I don't get them answered here, I will get them answered for you afterwards. Now, if you're here at the end, you're going to have the opportunity to get a special offer, and that's a Roth conversion analysis. People just like you across this country that have gone through this process all come back with the same words. It was like nothing they've ever experienced before. They have more clarity, balance, and focus when it comes to their retirement than they've ever had. Folks, this is an in-depth, like an MRI of your overall financial situation, showing you whether your current plan is going to get you where you're going to go. And if you're going to be able to live the lifestyle you become accustomed to, adjusted for taxes and inflation, out beyond yours and your spouse's life expectancy, and then pass your money on in the most tax favorable way possible. You know, the funny thing about planning for retirement is it really doesn't take a plan. All you got to do is keep putting money away and putting money away. And then hopefully, when you get to retirement, you'll have enough money. But see, the thing is, folks, it takes a plan to get through the distribution phase. And if you haven't done that analysis, now's the time to do it. So throughout the night, it's gonna pop up on the side. You can go on that pop-up. It won't take you away from the webinar. And you can get on my schedule to make sure you get your Roth conversion analysis. Now, people say, Jim, you're an expert in retirement, financial planning, estate planning, and saving businesses taxes. Where did you get all this passion? Well, I think it comes from my childhood. You see, when I was a child, my father used to say, I put you on this earth, I can take you off. But one of the things he taught me and that I've always been grateful for is that he said, look, he says, it's my job to provide you with that which you need. And it's your job to provide you with that which you want. So if I wanted a nicer bicycle or a pair of roller skates or better clothes, I had to go out and earn that money. I had paper routes, I shoveled snow, I washed cars, hell, I collected pop bottles. I used to have multiple paper routes. But the thing is what he never taught me, and what I've come to find by being in this business for so long, is that I've found that no one got the training, all right, is because it just isn't out there. You really have to work at getting good financial training. But what I found, my problem is he never ever told me what to do with the money once I got it. So you get it, you spend it, you get it, you spend it. I was really good at that. As a matter of fact, I left home when I was 15 and went in the Marine Corps when I was 17, got out when I was 21, had my first business by the time I was 22. And if you'd have asked me at 30 how much money I had in the bank, I would have looked at you and laughed. I would have said, dude, money in the bank? What do I need money in the bank for? I'm not even supposed to be alive. Well, as it turned out, I began to realize I would live longer and longer. And now I'm 63, been in business for myself all my life. And I started to figure out that, I should be putting some money away. But when I gave it to my broker, my financial planner, my stockbroker, okay, they lost it as fast as I gave it to them. So as I went along, I said there had to be a better way. So I sought it out, and that's how I ended up in this business. And now I make it my passion to teach people how to do that, but teach them more importantly, not what to invest in, but how to invest. See, if I was going to send you out to play in a pro golf tournament tomorrow, would you want the best golfer in the world's clubs or their swing? And the answer is you'd want their swing. Yet everybody focuses on the clubs, the stocks, the bonds, the mutual funds, the gold, the silver. Now, common focus points in retirement is what should I do with my Social Security? Well, folks, I do a class just on Social Security. You can go out to our website or go out to the YouTube page and go on there and watch classes just on that subject. But when you get together for that Roth conversion analysis, if you bring a copy of yours and your spouse's Social Security statement to that, which in order to get that, you have to go out to ssa.gov/my account and log in because they don't send it to you anymore and pull your most recent statement. I will be able to put you into a sophisticated software that's strictly for Social Security and tell you exactly when is the best time to take your Social Security. What should I do about Medicare? Now, we have people on our team that are specialists in Medicare, and if you want to know more about that, we'll be happy to introduce you to them. But this is very important because if you're doing Roth conversions and that kind of stuff, it's going to have an effect on your Medicare. It's going to have an effect on your Social Security. But if you don't do them, the RMDs are going to have an effect on your Medicare and your Social Security. Now, how can I set up streams of income in retirement? More importantly, how do I set up streams of income that will keep up with inflation and taxes and never run out no matter how long I live? How am I going to be taxed in retirement? Well, taxes happens to be one of my favorite subjects. So let's talk a lot about what a Roth IRA is. But before we talk about what a Roth IRA is, we need to talk about what an IRA is, okay? It's an individual retirement account. It's designed to help you supplement your income in retirement. It's designated for retirement. Now, in an IRA, you can't take money out of an IRA prior to 59 and a half, or you're going to pay a 10% penalty for removing it early. It's traditional IRA versus Roth IRA is what we're going to talk about next. Now, contributions are exactly the same. The amount of money I can put in an individual retirement account and the amount I can put in a Roth IRA are exactly the same, but there's some special rules for that. So let's see how they compare. Well, when we put money in an IRA, it goes in pre-tax, meaning that I'm going to get a tax deduction off my tax return, reducing my income, and I won't be taxed on that money. Now, here's an important one. When I make a contribution to an ERISA plan, an IRA, a 401k, a 403b, a 457, a defined benefit plan, a TSP, a SEP IRA, a defined benefit plan, wherever I'm making that contribution to, I get a tax deduction. But my tax deduction is at my top marginal tax bracket. Now, here's an interesting one. When it comes time to take it out, whether I take it out past 59 and a half, or I take it out when I have to take RMDs out at 72 to 74, it comes out at my top marginal tax bracket. So the only way you're going to win this game when it comes to growing your money tax deferred is you have to come out at a lower bracket than when you put it in. And oh, I know they told you you should put your money inside of a tax deferred account because you're going to grow on money you would have otherwise paid in taxes. And in the end, you're going to have more money because you're going to be in a lower tax bracket. Well, folks, is that true? And you would be shocked at the number of times that's simply not true. And I'm going to show you how for married couples, it's almost never true. So over in a Roth IRA, when I put the money in, it's post-tax. So I pay the taxes today, but now my money is growing tax-free forever, but I don't get a write-off for it. There are contribution limits, and they depend on the level of income and filing tax status. Same thing happens with the Roth IRA. Now, when it comes time to taking money out of an IRA, any withdrawals prior to 59 and a half, principal or growth, has a 10% penalty plus the taxes. Now, on a Roth IRA, remember I told you to get out a pencil and paper. This is one of the times you're going to want to write this down. Write down the word contribution. When I make a contribution into a Roth IRA, I can withdraw the contribution from a Roth IRA the very next day, next year, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, anytime before or after 59 and a half. But I cannot withdraw the growth till 59 and a half or 5 years, whichever is longer. It's very, very important. So on a contribution, I can withdraw the growth, but I cannot, I can withdraw the principal, the actual deposit, but I cannot withdraw the growth for 5 years or 59 and a half, whichever is longer. Otherwise, not only am I subject to a penalty, I'm subject to taxes. If it's prior to 59 and a half, if it's over 59 and a half, I'm subject to taxes if it's not in the Roth IRA for 5 years. Now, real quickly, the 5-year rule is from the date you established your first Roth IRA. Now, all withdrawals incur taxes at ordinary income rates, not capital gain rates, on contributions into and growth inside of an IRA. There might be a few of you out there that have non-qualified contributions into your 401k plan. Before you move your 401k plan, there are two little known rules that you need to look at first. One is called NUA and non-qualified contributions. If you move your 401k before you look at those things, you could muddy the waters and lose some tax deductions that would be kind of a big problem, okay? So be sure that you've gone through that Roth conversion analysis before you start rolling these accounts out. No taxes on Roth IRAs when we go to take it out, as long as it's past 5 years or 59 and a half. On our IRAs, we have what are called RMDs, or required minimum distributions. Currently, today, those are at 72. That age is going to move to 73 and 74, but keep in mind, they can change the rules anytime they want. Whereas a Roth IRA, there are no RMDs. So when we're putting these side by side on a traditional IRA, we get a tax break now, and you get your tax break up front and pay no taxes on the money until you withdraw it, which creates a tax bomb. See, when you set these things up, when you put money in an IRA, a 401k, so on and so forth, you made a deal with the devil. So let me just kind of drive this home for you. I'm going to loan you some money right now, okay? I'm going to write you a check for $100,000. Got any questions? Of course you do. You have two questions. You want to know, when do I have to pay it back? And then what interest rate do I have to pay it back at? So let me ask you a question. If I told you that I'm going to loan you $100,000, but here's the deal, I don't really need this money right now. I'll let you know when you have to pay me back. Would you borrow my money? What if I told you interest rates suck right now, so when it comes time to pay me back, I'll tell you the interest rate. Would you borrow my money? Now, I'll bet there's not a single one of you out there right now. How about you, Shani, Dan, Kim, Christine? Would you borrow my money? I bet not a single one of you would. Yet, every single one of you has an IRA, a 401k, a 403b, a 457, a defined benefit plan, or something along those lines. And I'd like any one of you to jump on here and explain to me the difference between those accounts and my check. You see, there is none. They determine the rate by which you pay it back, and they determine when you pay it back. Let me give you one more, okay? You're so proud of yourself. You have $1 million in your 401k. How about you, Kathleen? You probably have $1 million in your 401k. Leo, can I ask you a question? Have you ever seen the after-tax statement? Well, you haven't seen the after-tax statement? Well, let me show it to you. Watch closely, okay? It looks like this. You see, you believe that there's $1 million in your account. And the IRS believes there's $1 million in their account. But the IRS is in control. See, the IRS says until you give them this portion, whatever portion that might be, this doesn't belong to you at all. And oh, by the way, when you get to a certain age, you have to start taking money out. And if you don't, we're going to penalize you. Doesn't sound so good anymore, does it? And when you start putting that perspective, then you start thinking, well, maybe, just maybe, I want to fire my business partner. So a Roth IRA over here, we get a tax break later. The money you deposit has already been taxed, and you pay no taxes on it when you take it out after 59 and a half. Exception to the rule is contributions. Remember that word. Contributions into a Roth IRA can be taken out anytime. And remember, taxes are on sale right now, and that sale ends January 1st. So Roth IRA income limits. So if we're going to contribute to a Roth IRA, we have limits or caps as to how much money we can make before we can't put money in it. So if we're married filing jointly and we're less than $218,000, we can contribute $7,000 under 50 and $8,000 over 50. 218 to 228, it's reduced. And at $228,000, you are not eligible to contribute into a Roth IRA. Yes, there is something called a backdoor way, but you are not allowed to contribute into a Roth IRA. Filing single, it's $153,000 is your cap on the top. All right? So, accumulation roadblocks, okay? Well, you're already retired and you don't have an earned income to show. So you cannot contribute into an IRA or Roth IRA or any other type of ERISA plan if you do not have a job. So you must have a 1099 or a W-2 income coming from a job. Now, this does not include passive income such as rental properties, things like that, unless you've established a corporation for your rental properties and you're paying yourself a paycheck out of it. It would not be considered earned income. So you would not be able to contribute. The other block would be you make too much money, so you're not allowed to put money inside of that Roth over there. The maximum contribution limits are too low to help you save much prior to retirement. See, the people that really need the tax-free are the ones that can't have it. They take it away from you. Well, not really. You just have to know how to get there. So how do I maximize my Roth IRA? Now, I told you earlier to write down the word contribution. Now, we're going to write down the word conversion, because conversion is a totally different animal with a totally different set of rules. And if you don't get these rules right and you do this wrong, it could cost you a lot of money. So when we go to do a Roth conversion, you need to understand your tax bracket. Now, tax brackets are what's called the progressive tax system. And this is our current tax laws up until 12/31 of this year. And then at that point, they would revert back to our old tax laws, unless they change the law. So 10%, if we go down the married filing jointly column over here, up to $22,000 of taxable income is taxed at 10%. Now, what is taxable income? We have what's called AGI. It's made up of all of our income. Then we take away deductions, and then we have what's called taxable income. And that's subject to these progressive tax rates. 12% on 22 to 89, 22 on 89 to 190, 24 on 190 to 364, 32 to 35, and top marginal tax bracket of 37%. So let's pretend for 1 second that we have a taxable income of $250,000 a year. So we have taxable income of $250,000 a year. Everything between 190, 751 is taxed at 24%. So if I was to make a deposit into my IRA, for example, I would be saving 20% in federal taxes. And some of you have no state taxes, so I'd be saving 24% in federal taxes over here. If I was to make a withdrawal from my IRA or a conversion, I would be paying taxes at the 24% if I'm at $250,000 in taxable income. Hopefully you got that. But the thing to understand is this. After doing that Roth conversion analysis, you're going to have a crystal clear picture of what your tax brackets are going to look like going forward. And I know they told you should put money in a tax deferred account because you're going to draw on money you would have otherwise paid in taxes. And in the end, you're going to be in a lower tax bracket, so you're going to pay less taxes. But folks, that generally is not the case. So, and if you are there, will you stay there? That's the $1 million question. So you see, if we went over here and we looked right here, married filing jointly, well, their gross income is $279,000. Their standard deduction was $29,200. That number has moved up now, but it's $29,200. Their taxable income is $250,000. They're in a 24% tax bracket with an effective rate of 16.51. Now, here's the part that married couples always seem to forget. Here's the deal. One of you are going to die. You're not getting out of here alive. And generally that's going to be the man. It's not always the man, but generally it's going to be the man. So what's going to happen on the day that he or she dies? And the answer is the only thing that's going away is 85% of whatever the Social Security is. So in this particular case, that Social Security went down by $30,000, and now it's $249,600, and immediately they're single in a 32% tax bracket. So my question for you is, are you planning your retirement or the government's? Do you guys have a relationship with someone in the government where you're dying to give them your money rather than keep it for yourself or your family? Now, I think we determined in the beginning that taxes will be higher. So do you want to pay them? What's your plan? And the part of your plan that you should be looking at is what is the highest tax bracket you will ever be in, okay, or the lowest. Where are you going to get? What's the lowest tax bracket you're going to be in? You're going to be in a 22? You're going to be in a 24? What bracket are you going to be in? And if that's the tax bracket you're going to be in for the rest of your life, and it's probably going to get higher, don't you think that it might just be time to start paying the government their portion? You see, you want to pay the taxes on this when the taxes are the lowest. And when that happens, you want to be capitalizing on your tax bracket each and every year, but more importantly, you want to know how to pay those taxes as you go. And there's a lot more to this than you're going to learn just tonight, because I could give you a class on this for 3 or 4 hours. So then along comes this thing called required minimum distribution. So I'll tell you, I talked about mistakes that people make. Well, one of the mistakes that people make on a regular basis is I sit down with them and they're so proud. They're in their early 60s and they're just ecstatic that, they haven't even had to file a tax return because they've been living on their cash. And their rental properties are depreciating, and so they have such a low income that they don't have to file a tax return. Well, I look at them and I go, wow, did you screw up? This is, what are they talking about? My accountant said I don't have to file a tax return. I said, yeah, you screwed up. You see, you have $1 million over here growing tax deferred. And you could have got it out at that 10, 12, 22% tax bracket. And take a look at this. When we get out here, when we're taking our Social Security and we now have to take required minimum distributions, we created a taxable income and created greater taxation. We caused a ripple effect on our Social Security with provisional income, made our Social Security taxable, and all of a sudden we're going to jump 2, 3, 4 tax brackets. Maybe it would have been good to be a little proactive and do something about this, but I have an accountant. Folks, your accountant is the most reactive person on the face of the earth. They react when you come in January, February, or March, and they say, and you hand them this stuff and say, all right, I want to pay as little taxes as possible. Have they ever come to you in August, September, October, November, December, and said, hey, I've got an idea on how we can save on taxes this year? Ever heard those words? You probably won't. And if you own a business and you're not hearing those words, we definitely need to talk. So required minimum distribution, the government wants you to save for retirement, but the IRS still wants their cut. Remember that deal you made with the devil? Well, here's the interesting part. If you don't take it out, they charge you 25%. And all I have to say to that is, what the hell? Okay? And if I take it out early, they're going to charge me a 10% penalty. But if I take it out late, they're going to charge me a 25% penalty. What's that all about? They're not your friend, okay? And no one out there is your friend. So you got to be doing the math. You got to be figuring this out. When is the best time to do this? And you got to get to work on it. Because you know how you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Of course, the first step is to stop feeding it, but then you start eating it one bite at a time. And most of you own an elephant. So how are you going to eat it? Now, a traditional IRA, when you leave a job, the second you leave a job, one of the very first things you should do is you should be moving your ERISA plan, 401k, 403b, 457, TSP, whatever the case may be, out to an IRA. Now, I could give you lots of reasons to do this, but you should be doing that. But before you do that, you need to look at a little-known law called NUA and unqualified contributions into the IRA. Because if you're going to be moving that stuff and you mix those up, you can't fix it, and you can save a lot of money in taxes if you have those two things inside of there. But when you move from a 401k to an IRA, it's called the trustee to trustee transfer. That is a zero taxable event. So it's not a non-taxable event. But when you move money from an IRA over to a Roth IRA, that is a taxable event. Now, the key to this is having a solid plan on how to do it, because there is better ways to pay the taxes in most cases than out of an IRA. Folks, you know what you call a person with a little bit of information? Dangerous. You're all going to be very dangerous when you leave here tonight. So don't run out of here and start doing this stuff until you get that Roth conversion analysis. So you can see exactly when is the best time for you to do it and how much should you be converting and where should you be paying the taxes from. But those taxes are going to be due when you file your next tax return. So if you were to do a Roth conversion today, then you would owe those taxes by April 15th of next year. And by the way, I told you this is one of the greatest opportunities ever. In the beginning, I told you the greatest opportunity ever. If your account is down right now, which most of you are down currently, about 10 to 12% from the first of the year still, even though with all these huge gains and losses, you're down about 10%, wouldn't this be a good time to be converting that money over to a Roth? I want to think about that. Now, but before moving forward, doing this wrong can cost you a lot. It can increase your healthcare costs, it can increase taxation on your marginal tax bracket, increase capital gains taxations, and there's no doing it over. Prior to the current Secure Act, you could do what was called a recharacterization. If you didn't do your Roth correctly, you had all the way up to October 15th of the following year to go back and put it back. That rule's gone. So you got to get this right. You got to have a solid plan about what you're doing, and you've got to sit down and do the math and make sure it's correct. Now, there are only three ways to grow your money. You can grow them tax as you go, tax deferred, and tax free. Tax as you go is the worst way to grow your money. It comes with a 1099 at the end of the year. It's your cash, your savings, CDs, bonds, this type of stuff. Now, which is the best way? Is it better to grow your money tax deferred or tax free? Now, see, that's actually not the answer. The answer is it depends. Because it depends on what rate you put it in your tax deferred account at and what rate you take it out at. And you know, people tell you all kinds of stuff, but this is really simple. You are putting it in at the top marginal tax bracket and you're taking it out at the top marginal tax bracket. So if you put it in at a 24% savings, you take it out at a 24% tax rate, it's the exact same number. If you take it out at a 30% tax rate, you lost. If you take it out anything less than 24, you won. But the key is that even if it does make sense for you to put money in tax deferred today, you probably have more money you probably capped out on whatever you could put in and you have more money. So where do you want to put that? Answer, tax-free. Now under tax-free, you have three ways to grow your money. Muni bonds, Roth IRAs, and there's a hybrid strategy, which we'll talk just a little bit about. But the bottom line here is that once again, you must have a plan when it comes to doing this. Remember, do you want the clubs or the swing? Because this is the swing. This is how you play the game. This is how you invest the money, not what you invest the money in. A hybrid strategy, your money grows tax-free, just like a Roth IRA. You can withdraw your money tax-free and put it back. So remember, in the Roth, we can withdraw the contributions, not the conversions. We can withdraw the contributions, but we can't put them back. We're limited to how much money we can put back. In the hybrid strategy, we can put it back. We have no limits on contributions. We can access our money with more liquidity, absolute downside protection, and it grows up. If we die, it grows up to a larger amount. Now, folks, if you haven't done so already, I want you to get out that pencil and paper because I'm about to teach you something very important. This is the most important equation that you could ever know. Now, remember, I told you in the beginning, it does not take a plan to get to retirement. Just keep putting money away, putting the money away, dollar cost average in, and just keep saving and saving and saving, and time will do the job. But it definitely takes a plan to get through distribution and preservation stage of your life. So if you want to live the lifestyle you become accustomed to, adjusted for taxes and inflation out beyond yours and your spouse's life expectancy, you better learn this equation. This equation is TR equals I plus G. TR is total growth, total return rather. Total return is income plus growth. What does that mean, Jim? Well, that's pretty simple. In the accumulation stage of your life, when you're over here putting money away, and saving money for retirement, okay, what's happening over here is the market's going up and down, and up and down, and up and down, and it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. All you have to do is just sit and wait, and the market is going to recover every single time. As a matter of fact, I can tell you exactly what the stock market's going to do. It's going to go up, and it's going to go down. And it's really not a question of it's going to go down. It's just a question of how many times is it going to go down in your retirement. And when this is happening, you get a paycheck. Life is good, no big deal. Just let this go up and down and let it go up and down. But now, I told you, it needs a plan. So we get over here to the retirement stage, and over here, let's just say for the sake of argument that you need $60,000 a year to fill that gap. So if the market makes 6%, life is good. 6%, life is good. 1 year, just 1 year. The market loses 20%. If I had $1 million and the market lost 20% and I'm in the preservation and distribution stage of my life, how much money do I have left? No, it's not $800,000. You see, I still have to take the $60,000, so I'm at $740,000. And folks, you're not going to recover from that. And what we know is we know that the market corrects itself about every 3.9 years. And what I told you, I was going to give you a roadmap on how to make this all work for you. So let's talk a little bit about what's going to happen when we go to the Fisher Investments, the Wells Fargo, the Fidelity, the Schwab, the Vanguards. We're going to go in and we're going to say, hey, look, I did a great job. I got $1 million. I got $1 million in my 401k now, knowing full well it really isn't $1 million. It looks like this, but I got $1 million. Mr. Broker, can you tell me how much money can I take out of this account every single year and not run out of money in my life expectancy? Well, they're going to all use the same exact rule. They're going to go out and they're going to say, well, look, we're going to use the 4% rule. And the 4% rule says that if we take 4% out of this account every single year, we have an 85% chance of making it out to your life expectancy. Folks, I fly all the time. And if I get on the airplane, they come on and say, ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you for flying United Airlines. And the co-pilot and I have been doing some calculations, and we've determined that on our flight to New York today, we have an 85% chance of making it to the location, to where we're going. I'm getting off the plane. I'm not staying on the plane. I don't want come. Okay? If it happens, the income will come. I want income. You see, what if I just happen to retire at the worst possible time? I didn't know. It was 2000. Market dropped 9.1%. I took out 4%. I'm already down to 861. And then a plane goes crashing into a building. And the next year, the market goes down another 11.8%. I take out my 40. I'm at 712. And by 2002, I'm at $510,000. That's half of what I started with. And this is even accounting for taxes. This is just accounting for the withdrawal. And then I go on, and then down in 2008, I have these huge ups, 28, 10, 15, and then 2008, it happens again. And by the time I get to 2010, I'm at about half of what I started at. See, if you would just concentrate more on avoiding the losses rather than picking the winners, you could do so much better. You know, you spend all your life building up this account, building up this $1 million. Exactly at what point did it become okay to lose money? You see, you talk to your broker and you say to your broker, you say, look, what should I do? And they say, look, whatever you do, don't sell, because if you do that, you're going to lock in the losses. I don't know if you ever watched a football game, but maybe it's your favorite football team. And out there, that football team, it's halftime. You come into halftime and they're behind. Can I ask you a question? What do you think happens in that locker room? Do you think they go back and say, oh, we got to change everything? Or do you think they go back and they make some small adjustments to make sure that they win? They want to make sure that they win. They don't want to quit, because if they quit, they lock in their losses. And that's what the broker's saying. Look, if you quit, you're going to lock in your losses. Just hang in there. It's going to be okay. Well, what if it isn't going to be okay? What if it goes down to 37% more? And what if you're 5 years away from retirement, or you're already in retirement? Will you recover from that? Don't think so. See, if you had this strategy of just 4%, okay? And all you do is made 4%. That's not a very difficult thing to do. You can put in a certificate of disappointment today at that rate. At 4%, in 20 years, you still have your $1 million. Now, it isn't going to work this way, folks, because there's this thing called inflation and taxes and all that kind of stuff. So you're going to have an income plan to make sure that you have that income secured for your life and for your spouse's life and out beyond that point. And then pass it on the most tax favorable way possible. Now, I like to liken this whole thing to your house. Your financial house is much like your house. You walk into your house and you got these paintings and the carpet and the windows and the doors and, all of this great stuff you put in your house. And it's kind of like the stocks and the bonds and the mutual funds and the ETFs. And you're just so excited about your house. But what you lose sight of, and what so many people lose sight of, whether it's their financial house or their house, is what your house is really all about. So your real house is really all about that gray, cold, hard foundation. That thing that holds your house up. And in your financial portfolio, that's your income. That's your asset allocation and how you allocate these assets. And are you going to make small adjustments now while you still have a chance to make sure you don't run out of money? Or are you just going to wait and see what happens? Because one thing I can tell you absolutely positively for sure, storms are going to happen. The market's going to go up and the market's going to go down, and nobody can tell you where the bottom of it is when it's going down. But my question for you is your asset allocation, is your foundation solid enough to make sure you weather the storms, that you're able to live the lifestyle you become accustomed to, adjusted for taxes and inflation out beyond yours and your spouse's life expectancy, and then pass your money on in the most tax favorable way possible? Or are you just going on a wing and a prayer. Mr. Warren Buffett says, rule number 1, don't lose money. Rule number 2, don't lose money. Did you know that the billionaires back prior to January were exiting the market at a rampant rate? That everybody was saying, stay the course, stay the course. Well, look where we're at now. And all indications say this isn't over. So at what point do you pull some of your chips off the table? At what point do you start making those small adjustments to make sure you win? Not lose, you win. Now, people come to me all the time. They say, Jim, you're an expert at this stuff. Tell me, how do I invest my money? I always look at them and I laugh. I say, I have absolutely no idea. None whatsoever. It's like you walk into the doctor's office for the very first time in your life, and as you walk through the door, you say, here, eat this pill. Would you eat it? I would hope not. That's called malpractice. That's called prescribing without diagnosing. This goes on every day in the financial world. You should buy this ETF, this stock, this bond, this mutual fund. I've got the greatest portfolio ever. Buy some gold. How could they possibly know this? How could they possibly know what it is you should buy if they haven't done a diagnosis? If they haven't taken a 100,000-foot view of who you are, where you are, because I guarantee you there's not a single one of you on here that are the same. Diane is very different than Lamberto. Patrick is different than Peter. Adnan's different than Leo. Kathleen's different than Dan. The list goes on and on and on. The bottom line here is that you're an individual. And as an individual, you need a plan. And I told you, if you were here at the end, and don't worry, I am going to answer your questions, so stick around. So if you were here at the end, I had a special offer for you. And that special offer is a Roth conversion analysis. This is an in-depth look at where you are. This is going to help you have more clarity about your retirement than ever before in your life. And when you come to this, leave your checkbook at home. You don't get to buy anything. This is about getting a very clear picture about whether your plan's working or not. You probably don't even have one. You just hope and a prayer. Now, all you got to do is go click on the slide in, and it will take you out. And then at that point, you get on the schedule. Now, if you went and bought this, it cost you a minimum of $1,200. Minimum. I could charge you $5,000 for this all day long. But because you were here, it's complimentary to you. But you've got to get on the schedule. So if you click on that slide in, you go out here and you get on the calendar. And when you get on the calendar, you got to put in your name, your email address, and your cell phone number. It will immediately send you back a text saying that, and an email saying that you're on the calendar. It will immediately send you out another email that has inside of it a wealth assessment form. I can't tell you how many people say, well, I don't want to give you a wealth assessment form. Well, fine, go to the doctor's office, tell the doctor it hurts, and ask him how to fix it. But don't tell him where it hurts. A diagnosis has to be done. And in order to do a diagnosis and to do it correctly, you have to have that information. So you're going to get a wealth assessment form. Fill it out as complete as you possibly can. Now, know something. It is a jot form. If you try to do it part way and walk away and come back, it will not be there. I do not recommend trying to do this on your cell phone. Do it on a computer. It's much easier than doing it on a cell phone. People do it on their cell phone, but believe me, it's much easier to do it on a computer. If you don't get it done by the time we get together, it's not the end of the world. We'll get it figured out going forward. But if you want to get the best use out of that time with me on that first time together, get that jot form done beforehand. Now, I saw some questions over here, but let's go through those really quick. Please explain the 5-year rule. If I move money into a Roth and an IRA 401k each year, can I put it in the same Roth, or would it be better to make a new account each year so I know when the 5-year rule ends? Second question, I create a Roth in 2000. Can I start taking out in 2025 or 2026? Well, probably it's 2026 because it's 5 years from that date. If you did it on let's see, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. If you did it on, you'd probably be able to do it in 25, depending on what date you did it on. Okay. So if you did it on January 1st of 2020, you'd be able to take it out January 2nd of 2025. The 5-year rule is very interesting. Okay. So what the 5-year rule says, is that you must have a Roth IRA established for more than 5 years. If it's prior to 59 and a half and you do a conversion or a contribution into a Roth IRA, you cannot take out anything but contributions into a Roth IRA prior to 59 and a half, or 5 years, whichever is longer, but contributions are exempt from that. Conversions, you will not be able to take out a conversion in a Roth IRA until at least 59 and a half or 5 years, whichever is longer. If you're past 59 and a half and you do a Roth conversion and your Roth was already established more than 5 years ago, you would be able to take that money out without the penalties. Hopefully that helps you with that. Let's see here. Shinny. What about if I have a Roth account more than 5 years and this year I put more money, can I take out anytime without a penalty? Yes, okay? But remember, you don't have to be past 5 years to take out contributions, okay? So example, you put in 8,000, or let's say you're younger, you put in 7,000 this year, 7,000 last year, you put in 7,000 3 years in a row, you have $21,000 in contributions, but your account's worth $30,000. You could withdraw the $21,000. Now, I don't recommend you do that. Why do you have a Roth IRA? Why do you have an IRA? This is your future money. You should stay away from it, okay? You should not be doing that. Now, when we get together, one of the things I want to talk about really, really quick here is that a lot of people are buying cryptocurrency, all right? Now, if you're buying cryptocurrency, why aren't you doing that in an IRA or a Roth? And I'll give you a great way to do that when we get together. I'll give you a link on a great place to go do that at, okay? Let's see here. Diane Scott, PM, is there a penalty if I don't pay the taxes until 4/15? So, well, that actually depends, okay? So there's what's called an alternative minimum tax, and there's estimated taxes, okay? So in the year that you pay taxes, let's say that last year, let's say the taxes you paid last year was $20,000, just as a round number, all right? And coming into this year, you made a Roth conversion, and let's say your taxes this year was $30,000. Well, you would have to pay up to the $20,000 in estimated taxes to avoid penalties in that year. Now, this is something you're going to want to discuss with your accountant, all right, to make sure that you don't get hit with any penalties. But for the most part, any conversions, that tax wouldn't be due until April 15th of the following year. All right, I didn't see any other questions out here. Now, if you haven't done so already, be sure to get on that calendar. And let me leave you with this. Remember to live like you're going to die tomorrow and plan like you're going to live forever, because you just might. And keep smiling. Drive really, really fast. I'm looking forward to meeting each and every one of you in the not too distant future. Make it a great night, and thank you for coming.